Since prehistoric times, human beings have learned to live in groups. This provided more security and better chances of surviving the dangers of nature. Large villages were constructed to accommodate an ever-increasing number of people. As the centuries passed, these villages evolved into prosperous and bustling cities. To protect the cities, powerful walls were built around them. Thus, citizens could continue their lives without major concerns. This was crucial in humanity's evolution towards more civilized and organized societies. However, some people in the world maintained a nomadic lifestyle, preferring the freedom of moving from one region to another rather than settling in a single location. The distant plains of Mongolia were home to many of these nomadic tribes who preserved a simple life by hunting wild animals and raising goats and sheep. Since farm animals needed constant feeding, it was necessary to always seek new pastures to sustain the herds. For this reason, the Mongols found it impractical to build houses with fixed foundations. The solution was to create camps that could be dismantled and transported in wooden carts, allowing an entire tribe to move along with the herd to more fertile locations. Although accustomed to this way of life, it was not easy under these conditions. A family had to share a cramped space inside huts called yurts, built with a wooden frame and covered with a tent made of felt or wool. Some larger tribes even occupied vast areas with their huts, creating a scenario where they were widely dispersed among hills. The tribes were led by tribal chiefs, known as Khans, who were responsible for political and military decisions. To facilitate long-distance travel, nomadic tribes specialized in domesticating wild horses. Despite their short stature, Mongolian horses are very resilient and capable of running at high speeds, making them an indispensable resource in that environment. Horses were so important that a tribal chief's wealth was measured by the number of horses he possessed. The Mongolian plains are hit by strong winds, and the days are almost always cold. But with the arrival of winter, living conditions became even more difficult. Another danger in the Mongolian plains was groups of thieves and renegades who frequently attacked herds to steal animals, even invading smaller camps in search of valuable items or to kidnap women. The constant need for grazing land led to rivalries between Mongolian tribes, which often resolved their differences through brutal combat. Other nomadic peoples, such as the Tatars, also carried out violent raids against Mongol camps. The life of a Mongolian was filled with challenges and uncertainties. Initially, the powerful Chinese kingdoms saw the Mongols as nothing more than inconvenient savages who attacked caravans and small border villages, and they were not regarded as a serious threat. For centuries, Chinese dynasties worked to keep the Mongolian tribes fighting among themselves. The Chinese used their influence and economic power to hire and bribe tribal leaders, thus fueling rivalry between the tribes. The Jin dynasty was one of the most influential in hindering Mongol development, as its borders were frequently threatened by expanding tribes. The Mongols seemed destined to lead a mediocre existence, forever remaining in the shadow of more powerful kingdoms. Until in 1206, a man named Temujin used his great determination to earn the right to be called Genghis Khan, which can be translated as the Great Khan. Genghis Khan began a campaign to unify the tribes, and those who refused to join him were annihilated. Gathering a large number of warriors, Genghis Khan marched towards the proud Chinese cities. At that time, China was not a unified kingdom, but was divided into three major dynasties. The Tangut dynasty controlled the northern portion of Chinese territory. The Jin dynasty was located in the northeast, while the Song dynasty dominated the southern part of China. The Tanguts were the first targets of the Mongols, as their territory was closer to Mongolia, and not all their cities had walls. Initially, the Mongols lacked siege weapons and did not know the technology to build them. As a result, they chose to attack cities without walls, since cities with walls were nearly impossible for them to conquer. However, the Mongols had one advantage: time. They surrounded the cities and set up their traditional camps, just as they had done for many generations. Chinese citizens could not leave the cities to tend their plantations or obtain other food sources, while the Mongols had their herds to ensure their livelihood. Sending soldiers to fight the Mongols in the open field was unthinkable unless there was no other choice. For centuries, the Mongols lived by riding and hunting on the Mongolian plains, and these skills made them excellent horsemen and archers. The Mongols used a type of bow reinforced with animal horns and tendons. This allowed the bow to shoot arrows over much longer distances with astonishing power and accuracy. The compact size of the bows also allowed for agile handling, even during high-speed galloping. In combat, the Mongols always sought to maintain a certain distance, punishing their enemies with a hail of deadly arrows. The Mongols highly valued military cunning and were experts in ambushes. One of the strategies most used by Mongol warriors was to feign retreat when attacked by numerous infantry or heavy cavalry. When the enemy troops began to show fatigue during the pursuit, they were surprised by the Mongols' quick maneuvers and suffered powerful counterattacks. The Mongols could control their horses using only their knees, leaving both hands free to handle weapons. This strategy allowed the Mongols to defeat larger and better equipped armies. But when close combat was necessary, Mongol warriors fought with great ferocity and determination. Mongol archers, called Mangudai, were trained from childhood to fight. These men spent so much time on horseback that many developed joint problems. As a rule, the Mongols did not mind spending weeks or months besieging a city to starve it out. However, this prolonged waiting often irritated the powerful Genghis Khan, who began to completely devastate cities that did not submit to his army. The Mongols showed no mercy towards their enemies. Taking prisoners was pointless to the Mongols, as they had no prisons, and feeding a large number of prisoners would be an unnecessary burden. According to sources, around 30 million people lost their lives during the Mongol invasions of China. Entire cities were looted and reduced to ashes, leaving a trail of devastation everywhere. The cruelty of the Mongols was not just out of savagery, but served as psychological terror against their enemies. If an entire city's population was decimated for resisting an attack, it was likely that the next city would fear the same fate and surrender without a fight to preserve their lives. But the Mongols were also practical and knew how to adapt quickly, always seeking to keep alive members of the Chinese nobility and those with useful skills such as carpenters, cartographers, blacksmiths, and cooks. With the help of Chinese engineers, the Mongols finally built their siege weapons and mastered this technology, which made the process of conquering cities faster, including the great city of Beijing. Even with a 12-meter-high wall, Beijing could not withstand the Mongols' siege. Genghis Khan's conquests attracted even more warriors to his army, and it didn't take long for the Mongols to occupy vast territories with their camps. Several Chinese cities were spared on the condition that they paid a monthly tribute to the Mongols. These tributes were to be paid in gold, silver, high-quality wood, and rolls of silk. Soon the Mongols would adopt and adapt new customs and technologies, such as manufacturing high-quality weapons and armor, silk clothes, and jewelry. Even the horses used by elite Mongol warriors were equipped with breastplates made from small iron plates. By 1215, the Mongols controlled the territories that previously belonged to the Tangut and Jin dynasties, leaving only the Song dynasty, which, thanks to its incredibly large army, was able to defend its borders against the Mongols. Under Genghis Khan's command, the Mongols accumulated wealth and fertile territories, creating what would become one of the greatest empires in history. Another thing that Genghis Khan enjoyed besides conquering new territories, was fathering children. Genghis Khan had so many children that today it is estimated that nearly 20 million people in East Asia are his descendants. In 1218, the Mongols ruled the conquered territories in China with an iron fist. The Chinese had paid a high price for underestimating the steppe barbarians, and now they found themselves forced to collaborate and serve their new rulers. The Mongols did not place much value on coins and precious metals, and soon realized that accumulating such things would be wasteful. With the help of Chinese experts, the Mongols learned that trade was the best way to make a kingdom prosper. Genghis Khan decided to make use of the large amount of looted coins and began sending emissaries to distant kingdoms such as Korea, India, and Persia. The intention was to establish trade routes with other kingdoms while continuing attempts to conquer all of China and subjugate the Song dynasty. But a serious diplomatic incident forever changed the course of history. Persia was ruled by a Muslim empire called the Khwarezmian Empire. Mongol emissaries sent to obtain trade agreements in Persia were accused of being spies and were executed. Such an offense could not go unanswered, and the Mongols set out to confront the formidable Muslim armies. Commanding 200,000 warriors, Genghis Khan advanced against the great cities of Persia. The Muslims had large armies that included courageous and well-trained knights. But even that was not enough to defeat the Mongols, who fought with superior tactics and unrivaled ferocity. It was not the Mongols' aim to conquer every city, but rather to punish those who resisted their will. The Mongols aimed to establish dominance over the entire world, and often sent emissaries to kingdoms that had not yet been conquered. These emissaries provided a simple ultimatum: surrender or face the Mongol armies. For those who resisted, the punishment was always the same: destruction of their cities and the decimation of their populations. This ruthless approach was effective in intimidating and subduing those who had not yet surrendered. In 1220, the Khwarezmian Empire was completely extinguished, and the world learned never to underestimate the Mongols again. The Mongols had already recognized the benefits of incorporating various types of soldiers into their ranks, which led to many Muslim warriors joining the Mongol army. This gigantic army included people of different ethnicities and cultures. Mongols, Chinese, and Arabs lived side by side in the camps, fostering new ties between different peoples. The Mongols were remarkably tolerant of the religious and spiritual beliefs of other peoples, allowing various cults and rituals in their camps and cities. Mongol religion, known as Tengriism, is based on the belief in a supreme deity called Tengri, who is considered the sky itself and thus above all things on earth. Tengriism incorporates shamanic elements and ancestor worship, but eventually absorbed elements of Tibetan Buddhism as well. With the capture of Persian territories, the Mongols controlled much of the famous Silk Road. The Silk Road connected various nations through trade, with caravans traveling from distant and exotic lands, carrying the most valuable merchandise of that era. The Mongols did not tolerate thieves and hunted those who dared to commit crimes in their territories. As a result, the Silk Road became increasingly safer for travelers and merchants, giving rise to the term Pax Mongolica, or Mongol peace. Controlling such a valuable trade route was crucial for the burgeoning Mongol Empire, and under this pretext, the Mongols set their sights on Europe, starting their conquest of lands in Russia and Ukraine. Nothing seemed capable of halting the advance of the Mongol armies, which were commanded by generals with significant autonomy and authority to choose targets and timing for attacks. The Mongols divided their forces and attacked multiple targets simultaneously, preventing enemies from sending reinforcements to each other. In 1227, the great leader Genghis Khan passed away abruptly. bringing a wave of uncertainty among the Mongols, as many leaders and generals believed themselves deserving of the title of Khan of Khans. Genghis Khan was succeeded by Ögedei, his third son, who was responsible for continuing the expansion of the Mongol Empire. Genghis Khan's other sons and grandsons were given command of territories that became known as the Khanates. As expected from a son of Genghis Khan, Ögedei proved to be a strong leader. Under his command, the Mongols completed their conquest of northern China and dominated Korea. Ögedei then set his sights on the powerful Song dynasty, leading to a 40-year war for control of southern China. Following the divide and conquer strategy, the Mongols advanced towards Europe. The Mongols were led by one of history's greatest generals and military strategists, Subedei. Having served Genghis Khan for many years, Subedei now served his son, Ögedei. Subedei, a man of humble origins, rose to the rank of great general through his battlefield merits. According to some sources, he was also a personal friend of Genghis Khan. Subedei lived up to his reputation, leading an invasion of Russia alongside other Mongol generals. This was a daring feat, given the vastness of Russian territory and its fierce warriors. But Subedei was no ordinary general, and neither were his tactics. He invaded Russia in the middle of winter, advancing against troops in sub-zero temperatures. This feat was made possible by the incredible resilience of the Mongol warriors. The Russians fought bravely but were unable to halt the powerful Mongol war machine. In 1240, the great city of Kiev was captured and plundered. Poland, Hungary, and Romania were the next kingdoms to fall, and even seasoned European knights from the Crusades could not withstand the Mongol archers. Other European countries prepared for the inevitable invasion, desperately trying to send emissaries to negotiate with the Mongol leaders. However, in 1241, the Mongol Empire faced an unexpected blow. Ögedei Khan passed away due to problems with alcoholism. As per Mongol customs, all the nation's leaders had to convene to elect a new sovereign. This event spared the rest of Europe from being annexed by the Mongol Empire. The election was to be held in the Mongol Empire's capital, the city of Karakorum, located in Mongolia. Ögedei's death revealed the ambitions of many Mongol nobles. In the following years, intense succession disputes weakened the empire. Eventually, one of Genghis Khan's grandsons, the famous Kublai, defeated his younger brother's forces and claimed the title of supreme leader of the Mongol nation. At that time, the empire was divided into 4 large khanates. In 1271, Kublai Khan founded the Yuan dynasty, which ruled over China and Korea. Chagatai, the second son of Genghis Khan, established his own empire in northern Afghanistan, known as the Khanate of Chagatai. The Khanate of the Golden Horde, founded by Batu Khan, controlled much of Russia and Hungary. The Ilkhanate, centered in Persia, was commanded by Hulagu Khan. Kublai Khan completed the conquest of the last Chinese territories, resisting Mongol domination, and became the first foreign emperor to rule all of China. As a child, Kublai was educated in the customs of the Chinese court, and he soon became a cultured man who enjoyed the luxuries of civilized life. This was seen as a weakness by many traditional Mongol leaders. Kublai Khan's reign was marked by turmoil and political intrigue. His administration of the territories was not yielding good results, and revolts frequently broke out in various parts of the empire. To assert his position as a warlike leader, Kublai sought to conquer new territories and turned his attention to Japan. Compared to the Mongol Empire, Japan was a small and poor country, seemingly an easy target for conquest. Using Chinese vessels, the Mongols assembled a large fleet and set sail towards the Japanese coast. But they did not anticipate a sudden change in the weather. A powerful typhoon struck the Sea of Japan, destroying the Mongol fleet. The ships capsized and collided violently, resulting in the death of thousands of warriors in the turbulent waters. The Japanese called these strong winds kamikaze, or divine wind. as such an event was seen as divine intervention protecting Japan from Mongol conquest. In 1281, the Mongols attempted another invasion of Japan, but this time the Japanese were prepared and managed to block the invaders' advance. The few Mongol ships that reached Japanese shores lacked the forces to defeat the samurai, who, inspired by the need to defend their homeland, fought with fierce determination. The failure of the invasions was a severe blow to Kublai's reign, leading to the gradual fragmentation of the Mongol Empire. The lack of organized leadership created space for revolts and the emergence of new kingdoms, which began expelling the Mongols from their lands. The Mongol Empire officially lasted until 1368, when it dissolved. Many Mongols returned to their homeland and resumed their lives as steppe nomads. Today, there are still traditional people who lead a simple life on the steppes of Mongolia. These people proudly carry the blood of their ancestors and preserve the legacy of those who once covered the sun with arrows and made the world tremble under the hooves of their horses.